Welcome to Episode Revolution, a podcast from the Libertarian Party Mises Caucus and Mises PAC. I'm Liam McCollum, and I'm your host for today. And my guest is Jeremy Cordon. He is the president of Goldback, Inc., and the Goldback is described as the world's first physical interchangeable gold money that is designed to accommodate even small transactions. We talk about the use case of Goldbacks and why Jeremy believes Goldbacks are a better alternative to fiat currency and even gold and silver coins. We also talk a little bit about cryptocurrency. I really hope you enjoy this one, and here's the interview with Jeremy. All right, well, let's get into it. Why don't you just tell people who you are and what you do?
So my name is Jeremy. I'm the president of Goldback. I make Goldbacks so that people can have the option of using sound money.
So what are Goldbacks for people who don't know what they are?
I've got this Goldback wallet here. So a Goldback is 1,000th of an ounce of gold in a form that you can carry. This one's a 50. It's got 50 times the amount of gold in it. Costs 50 times as much as this guy. This is 1,000th of an ounce of gold. And people are using this as money instead of Federal Reserve notes.
How many denominations do you have? So you had a 50, and then was that a 1 that you just held?
Yeah, that was a 1. So we've also got, since this is a video, this one's a 25. This one is this one's a Nevada 10.
Okay.
And then this one's a Utah 5.
So how many states are you guys in then?
So Goldbacks are in every state in the sense that they're sold and used in every state. But Goldback states, there are 4 currently, and there's going to be 5 this year. So we've got Nevada has their own series, Utah has their own series, New Hampshire has their own series, and the latest one was Wyoming.
Actually, while you have them out right now, why don't you just show them up again and maybe explain a little bit about the artwork? Because obviously one of the draws to Goldbacks is how beautiful they are. And the artwork is very interesting. I have a couple at home. But yeah, why don't you explain like the symbolism behind them and how they vary?
Okay. Well, if you had a 20th of an ounce gold coin, it'd be a little smaller than a dime. This is also a 20th of an ounce of gold. And I think part of the reason why gold is money and why it's always been money is because it's very visually impressive to look at. You know, people like gold. They like the beauty of it. It's not just that it's rare and has all the features of money. There's something very attractive about gold that lends us to using half of all the gold mined, into crafting jewelry, right? So, the Goldback, it really allows you to see more of your gold that you own. And again, for a 20th of an ounce, this could be, this might have, 80 times the surface area that a gold coin would have of the same weight. And this is the biggest Goldback there is. This is the 50. So for the Utah, every series has their own artwork. That's Lady Virtues, which is, it's like a Roman idea. It's the personification of ideals and virtues, I guess. So this is Libertas. This is Liberty. And this is the Utah one. So you got her standing in front of Bear Lake. That's in northern Utah. And she's sitting there with a mountain lion. It's got all, there's probably 20 different elements of their 50s for the other states. So, Utah 25, kind of the same thing. When we were voting in Utah a lot earlier than the rest of the country, they're counting votes since 1870 for women. I think Wyoming had Utah beat by like a year, but it's really controversial on like how that's counted. So we didn't know that we're going to do a Wyoming Goldback when we made the Utah one. And then this is the Nevada 10. I don't think this is the redesign. The redesign came out in 2023. Looks a lot better. And this is the 5s. This one's Truth, Veritas. And she's carrying a Bible there and a light. And then you've got Prudence, and she's a Native American on the Utah series, and she has symbolism from all the different Native American tribes in Utah.
So obviously the denominations vary in size, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean they have to. I couldn't fit a twentieth of an ounce of gold into something this small. And if I made, this is the 50 here. If I made the 1 as big as the 50 would be transparent, and that necessitated, making them different sizes.
Yeah, can you talk a little bit about the interchangeability of the Goldbacks? I know that that's one of the value propositions of Goldbacks,
Sure.
as opposed to like just regular coins.
All right, Liam. Let's say you wanted to use coins. We're all back to coins now. They go down to like a tenth of an ounce. As far as gold eagles go. Well, a tenth of an ounce is, it's over $200. And if you look at the premium on 10th ounce coins, I mean, that could be like 40%. But that's not the same premium on a 1 ounce coin, right? So it's like if I paid you a 1 ounce gold coin and you owed me 8 10th ounce coins, the values don't quite add up. So I don't think there's any serious people that actually use gold coins and change in gold coins just because of those premium differences. Whereas if you're using cash, it's really easy, right? So, we take that easiness of cash to Goldback where, this 50 here, you can turn this in for 51s. It's the same premium across the board, or you can change it in for, 10 fives or, whatever. It's an interchangeability, makes them very cash-like. So like UPMA or Alpine Gold, for example, you can have an account denominated in Goldbacks, and you can just request the Goldbacks that you want out of it. And it doesn't matter because they're all interchangeable, just like the dollars at your bank, right? Who knows if you have $100 or $50 bills or $20 bills at the bank, you can just ask for whatever you want, so it's irrelevant. So that also exists for Goldbacks, and it's great for making change or exact purchases. So
yeah, I feel like people might be a little interested in your ideological background. Are you a libertarian, and was there a point where you were persuaded by Austrian economics? I've listened to a few interviews of yours, and I'm just interested in what initially grabbed you about these ideas.
So I was a Ron Paul delegate in 2011. I see your sign in the background. So I was part of that campaign for liberty. I was a poster on the Daily Paul back when that was a place. I think Ron Paul really spoke to me, and he talked a lot about sound money. And I think that's what really got me sucked into precious metals was, this kind of worry about inflation and this return to using sound money and figuring out what that would look like. It was fun. I actually talked to Ron Paul recently and was showing him Goldbacks, and I got to thank him for, sparking the interest in sound money.
That's awesome. Do you know if there was a particular argument that drew you in? I remember I actually read "And the Fed," and that's what really woke me up to all of this. I particularly learning about fractional reserve banking, I think, is what woke me up to it all.
Okay. In terms of something that really got me excited, I found a series is called The Hidden Secrets of Money by Mike Maloney. And, it's a bit of a pitch, he's selling gold and silver, but he does a really good job in his first 4 episodes, just talking about the history of money and how the financial system works. It talks about the Fed, how all the banking works, what cash is nowadays. And, I think his thesis, if he has one, is, well, fiat currencies always fail, and gold has always been kind of the real money when, everything else fails. So if you're worried about things failing, and you should be worried about it, then you should own some gold so you can buy into whatever the new system is. Now, we took that a step further and said, well, what if the new system, what if we could get central banks doing this? I mean, the central banks, they own 20% of the world's gold. They're not doing much with it, and their job is to make something that circulates and works. So if the fiat system falls apart anyway, they may as well do something like this. And, the Goldback in a big way is a pilot. Will these wear out? Will people actually use them? Do people want them? Is there a demand for sound money? How will they circulate? How will they do in the market? And so far, the Goldback experiment has been going really well. We've seen a whole lot of growth, and I'd say there's more Goldbacks that have been sold than all the other 2,000 local currencies in the U.S. history combined. It's been wildly successful. There hasn't been another similar sound money project, with anywhere near the same degree of success as the Goldback in the last 70 years that we can see.
So what originally inspired you to start the Goldbacks? I mean, you were interested in these ideas, but what were the events that preceded it?
I was doing a gold cryptocurrency at a partner. His name's Larry Hilton. He wrote the Utah Legal Tender Act in 2011 that became a model for a dozen other states to pass similar laws where the state is recognizing that gold and silver are money. Larry, he's an attorney. He is also inspired by Ron Paul. So he drafted this bill and got it passed by the Utah legislature in the same year that I was, a delegate. And I ran to be a delegate for Ron Paul. I didn't end up being a statewide delegate. I ended up being a county delegate because I failed. but I tried, and that got me really interested in local politics. But it was years later, after starting to work for Larry, that we did a gold cryptocurrency. And the idea behind the gold cryptocurrency was, well, we have this cryptocurrency, it's backed by gold, and it's 1,000th of an ounce. And while I was doing this, I'd go to trade shows, and people would tell me, they'd say, oh, it's not that I don't trust you, it's I don't trust the government. If your crypto does so well, they'll roll in through your walls with tanks, and they'll take all the gold that backs the crypto, and they're not going to put up with, you doing something like that. And that's when I found Valorum, and this is the kind of stuff they used to make. This is our manufacturing company. So this is one that I bought from them. I see the date on here, in 2018. And I thought this was really fascinating because what it is it's a very small amount of gold, in a bill-like form that can be spent. And, they're just a small startup. I helped them raise some capital and was able to build a relationship with them. And, it might have been, 6 months after that it fully hit me that, having an interchangeable series of these could be money. They'd never gone that small before with the one denomination, and they'd never gone that big before with the 50. So it was really a technical engineering push. But once they're able to do that, we're off to the races.
What specifically does the Utah Legal Tender Act do? What can you tell us about that? And I guess, what laws are you looking for in states before you introduce a new Goldback? I know before we hit record, you were talking about potentially bringing them to Montana. So what laws should we try to introduce here?
You know what? That's a really good question. That's a fair question. There's a lot of states that are interested in Goldbacks. Something to understand about Goldbacks is it doesn't say the United States Goldback, right? There's a state name at the top, for this one, or there's a state name at the top for this one. It's Nevada, it's New Hampshire, it's Wyoming, it's Utah. There's always a state name associated with it because at the federal level, making your own money is illegal. You can't do this unless otherwise authorized by state law. So the state has to be supportive. They have to have laws in place that allow you to have something like this. Now, the state can change their laws at any time, right? So even if we do find a law that works in, say, New York, do you think that New York would be friendly to having a Goldback circulate in their state? Well, maybe they would and maybe they won't, but their track history is really poor regarding precious metals. So the Sound Money Defense League, they have a tracker for states, and they kind of rank how well they do with their precious metals laws. And you'll notice that of the 4 Goldback states, that 4 of the Goldback states are in the top 6 spots for state-friendly laws regarding precious metals. Now, I don't know where Montana is. I think they're number 15 or something. So there's things that states can do that signal that they're really friendly to precious metals, because if we're going to go through the trouble of making a gold back in that state, we don't want the state to change their laws and make it illegal for us to have, because then we'd have to take them out of print, and that'd be the end, and that'd be real sad, right? So that's what the Goldback is. It's not a national thing. It's a series of local state currencies. Now, the law that we happen to use right now works, I believe, in all 50 states. So if you read the bottom here, it says this Goldback contains 1/20th of an ounce of 24 karat gold, exchangeable by Goldback Inc. in U.S. gold coin to bearer on demand. So in essence, what this is it's a promissory note for a gold coin that's minted by the U.S. government. If you had 20 of these, if you have 1,000 Goldbacks of any denomination, you can turn them in for a 1 ounce U.S. minted gold coin. Now, this is the same law, the Uniform Commercial Code, that makes Walmart gift cards legal, or really any coupon. You ever read a coupon and it says this has a cash value of a penny? You ever see that? That's basically what this is. We're saying this is a gold coupon for a gold coin that is legal tender, that is minted by the U.S. government. By the way, the coupon itself is made out of gold. That's legal in every state. We patented that. We're really proud of that. So, that's how the Goldback works. So we could do these anywhere, and we might end up doing them everywhere. But right now we're only adding 1 or 2 states a year, and we're going to be doing it really gradually. And it's hard for us to make enough of these. 90% of Goldbacks sell outside of the 4 Goldback states. But if you live in Utah, you're 10 times more likely to buy a Utah Goldback than a guy that lives in Colorado. People get really excited when Goldbacks come to their state because they want to circulate them and they want to use them as money. And, we offer a lot of support for people that want to do that.
Are you also trying to look for states that exempt gold from like a sales tax or something like that?
Oh, 100%. If you have a sales tax on gold, even if we can legally do a Goldback there, why would we? So we've got, I think there's like a dozen states that have sales tax on gold that, we can't really touch them. And, in their defense, we have like Tennessee, they just dropped their sales tax on gold, so, they're a possible state now, whereas before Tennessee wasn't. And it's not even like a red state, blue state thing. One of the most friendly states to precious metal is New Hampshire. Another one's Nevada. And people might not have guessed that. Those aren't necessarily red states. Those are more purple states.
So can we talk a little bit about how they're taking hold and how popular they are? So,
sure.
It might be like a crazy sales pitch to, the random person to say, hey, we need to ditch the dollar and accept gold. So, are people embracing them just because of the novelty, the beauty of it? Or are you finding that people are understanding the problems of our monetary policy on the ground? How are you selling this to just the average person? And I guess, what is the elevator pitch?
Okay, sure. So, I took the company to lunch today. We went to a Brazilian restaurant. And at the end, we stuck some Goldbacks, as part of a tip, right? So the waiter is looking at it and they're pulling this out, and I explain it to him and I say, well, look, this is gold. This is 1,000th of an ounce, and it's always going to have value. In fact, the Goldback, they've doubled in value in terms of dollars in the last 4 years. Because all the money right now that you have suffers through inflation. And this is something that, you can use in Utah, and it's money here. Oh, that's so exciting. This is like my 3rd Goldback tip that I've received. Oh, what do you do with them? Oh, well, I think they're amazing, and I save them, and I'm thinking about buying some, so people, out of the last 6 people I've talked to in the wild in the last few days about Goldbacks, out of the last 6, 4 of them had already heard of Goldbacks. So we're having a lot of market penetration in Utah where even like entry-level workers, people that aren't into precious metals, young people, kind of the more regular folk, not the libertarians, not the, precious metal stackers community. They're finding goldbacks. And in a powerful way, it's introducing them to the world of precious metal. This is particularly important for, millennials. It's like every generation older you go, you see more and more interest in precious metals. Well, the baby boomers, they use precious metals. It was part of their money supply. It's near and dear to them. Something that was really eye-opening to me, I was talking to one of the former directors of the US Mint, and he said, I think it was Moy, he said the goal of the US Mint when he became in charge was to only lose 250,000 customers a year. Have you heard this, Liam?
No.
Can you imagine having the goal of your business to only lose 250,000 customers a year? So he said, well, why? Like, what's going on? It's Ed Moy, I think. What's going on? Why is that the goal? Well, they're aging out. You ever go to a coin show? The average age there is probably 75. There's a lot of people there, and walkers, and they're old, and they're looking for that one last Morgan. Those things were connected to their generation. Their generation was connected to, Morgan dollars. Their generation was connected to gold and silver. And they're aging out. Now you have a smaller number of them that have more money that are buying more gold coins, and that's propping up the whole market. But there's fewer customers. We've lost half of our coin stores in Utah over the last 20 years. It's a shrinking space. Now you contrast that with Goldback. We've added 1 million people to the market. Man, we have 1 million people that own Goldbacks. After 4 years, 3 of those people are brand new to precious metals. We've almost single-handedly plugged the gap in growth that needs to happen in precious metals just through our product. Because, the average person can afford $4 worth of gold. Oh, and by the way, you're not going to lose this. And it makes sense and it's visually appealing, right? So most of the people that own Goldbacks, they're young people. They're between the ages of, 20 and 45. It's a lot of that millennial generation, are owning Goldbacks and understanding them and spreading them. And that gives me a lot of hope for Goldback's future. So that's kind of what we're seeing in terms of growth. And, we've been able to sell just about every Goldback, that we could produce, and that's been true for years. So it's been going really good.
You had mentioned earlier that you first got into this by starting a Goldback cryptocurrency. And younger people are definitely very interested in cryptocurrency too.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas people like Peter Schiff have been opposed to cryptocurrencies, but he has said that if any cryptocurrency is to be successful, it will be backed by gold. So I'm wondering what you think about cryptocurrency in general. Are you all in on Goldbacks, or do you also see value in crypto? Do you see value in gold coins, silver coins, or are you 100% in on Goldbacks?
I think they all have their use cases, and I think that a lot of them are trying to accomplish the same thing, and that's giving people alternatives to Federal Reserve notes. There's pros and cons to crypto. I've got $40,000 worth of Tezos that I don't have the password for. It's just gone. It's like I lost it on my couch. It's just gone forever. And, that's a whole box of Goldbacks. I probably wouldn't lose a box of Goldbacks, right? But, if I did have that Tezos password, I could transfer it almost instantaneously to you across the country. And I can't do that as easily with Goldbacks right now. But we might have a gold-backed cryptocurrency in the next year or two, So, all wealth management is risk management. Everything comes with its own pros and cons and its own set of risks. And I've made a lot of money doing cryptocurrency. I was in cryptocurrency early, and I've done really well with it. But again, it's a different type of thing. Or I own silver too, but again, it's a different type of investment. I own silver because I think it's an undervalued industrial metal. I think at some point silver could be about as valuable as gold is, and at that point, we'll probably be doing silverbacks as a currency too. We're already doing silverbacks as kind of like a novelty item, like a limited edition collectible. You ever see a silverback?
No, I haven't.
Check it out.
I was going to ask about them.
Check it out.
So are
It's
these
so shiny, it's like hard to show here. This is one of the limited edition silverbacks.
Did you create these as well?
Yep.
Yeah, I was going to ask about them. I didn't know they were a thing.
Yep, they're a thing. So there's only 100,000 ever made. We've only printed like the first half so far, but they've sold out really well. This purple one here, it's this design. There's only 1,000 of these ones. I think the last one sold on eBay for like $600.
So are those by state as well, or are they
Nope,
just limited?
it's just a limited edition collectible. There's only a finite amount. It's kind of like Bitcoin. There's only a finite amount. They got serial numbers on them. So this one right here, it's 853 out of 100,000. So you can kind of see that right here. But people are buying them because they're cool, and they're finite. It's a collectible, like I said. Because if you think about it, it's 2 cents worth of silver. That's 1,000th of an ounce. That's not the most effective way to buy silver right now, if your goal is to buy silver. But again, if you're buying a collectible that's appreciable in value, that's a lot more similar to cryptocurrency or like an NFT. So that's our other product there.
So are people using this as you had mentioned that restaurants are accepting these in Utah, but elsewhere are people using this as money, or are they holding it as just like an appreciative asset? Do you foresee that this will be used as money, or just something that people will invest in and hold?
It's both, and it's anecdotal because once I sell a Goldback, I don't really know what happens to it unless somebody tells me. But then I get these stories, and often from all over the world. I got one the other day. Someone bought a pizza with Goldbacks in Israel. Like, okay, well, they could barter with gold, right? And it's a small amount of gold, and they can trade it for somebody that sees the value in owning gold. Because Goldbacks, at the end of the day, they're just gold. It's just a much more useful way to use gold and spend gold. We've made gold more high tech. This is vacuum deposition. This is the same level of technology that puts gold in your cell phone or the microchips in your car. This is fancy stuff. I would put out there that there's not a more high tech product, gold product out there that's mass sold for its value. So it's nice stuff. No one's ever been able to counterfeit it. And people, they see the value, and they want to have money that holds its value and works. So it's done really well. Sound money is popular.
So this question is related to the technology. What else can you say about the technology and how this is less likely to be counterfeited as opposed to just regular gold coins?
Well, the technology to make gold coins has been out for a long time, right? So for $30,000, I can get myself a press, and I can get myself fake blanks, tungsten in the middle, and I can get started making fakes tomorrow. And a lot of people do. Our market's getting flooded with fakes from China. That's why the Sigma machines are getting so popular. People can't really trust that their gold coins are real. And the counterfeiters are getting better and better at making fakes. And again, the technology, it's been out for hundreds of years. And, it's a very low price and barrier to entry. And if you pull off a fake gold coin, you made $1,900, so, contrast that with the Goldback. This guy here, this is a $4 product, right? Most $4 products aren't counterfeited. But if you look at this thing, I guess you can argue the 50. So if you look at this guy here, we've got 6 anti-counterfeiting features on there. You've got these non-repeating patterns. You've got this negative image on the back that's really hard to replicate. You have a unique serial number, on every single one that you can authenticate through a third party. But, the other thing with these is you're looking at about $5 million worth of equipment just to be able to make something that looks like this. Right. And then you have to get past all these kind of government level anti-security, anti-counterfeiting features. So nobody's done it. It's like, what would you rather do if you're a counterfeiter? Would you rather counterfeit these things and make $200 a piece? If you can pass them off as real, which maybe you can't, or spend $30,000 and everything you counterfeit and pass off is worth $1,900. See what I'm saying? It's like, also it took, decades to develop the technology to the point where it was this nice, so there's a learning curve. At that point, if you're that determined to counterfeit Goldbacks, you should just make a competing company and make even more money. It's like, I think counterfeiters are slackers. They're not looking to make an honest dollar.
So in another interview, you said that Goldbacks are legal in some capacity in every state, and this is because of Uniform Commercial Code.
Yep.
I'm wondering if you can just talk a little bit about that. And I also have another interest in the UCC because I worked on Capitol Hill here in Montana, and the most recent Uniform Commercial Code had language in it that a lot of people were afraid about because it seemed to be a pathway to CBDCs. So I'm interested in both of those things and your perspective on it.
I'm just speculating, but I think the people that are pushing CBDCs are looking at doing that at the state level. We've seen similar things in South Dakota where there was language that essentially banned a cryptocurrency in the state of South Dakota and promoted central bank digital currencies. And it's just kind of snuck into the Uniform Commercial Code. Now, if you're seeing that in Montana, I don't know, how big that effort is and how many different states they're trying to do that in. But you can see why it's a big deal for us to be working with legislatures that are friendly to precious metal, because even this tie-in that we have to the Uniform Commercial Code that works today for coupons, they could change it at any moment and make it not work for Goldback, right? And that's why we're starting and working in these really gold-friendly states. Because, technically we could, it'd be nice if we can get a Goldback in every state. But again, you have to find these state-level laws to work through. So every Goldback, and this is really more relevant from a regulatory standpoint, but you'd classify it, and you can read this here, it's so shiny, I probably shouldn't even try to do this. It's a specie legal tender instrument. So it's not legal tender, it's specie, because it ties into these $50 gold coins minted by the government. It's an instrument because you turn this in for said gold coins. Like I said, it's like having a coupon for, that has like a 5-cent redemption value, but the coupon itself is made out of precious metal. And again, that just gives it something for regulators to categorize it under, right? Because this is so new and so different that I think it would be hard to figure out what it was from a regulatory perspective if we didn't do that. Especially since we encourage people to, barter with it and use it like money.
Have you seen any states that are explicitly hostile to Goldbacks? Has any state introduced legislation that appeared to target them specifically?
No. But if somebody updated the Uniform Commercial Code in their state to exclude Goldbacks, it could have happened without us even noticing. So, possibly, if there's states that have sales taxes on precious metals, and there are several states that do, or there's a bunch, then we don't really want to be there anyway. So we're not ready to be in 50 states. And from a production standpoint, we're super not ready to be in 50 states. It's not an accident that our newest state is going to be South Dakota and that our last state was Wyoming. These are low population states that we think we can manage. I think we would like to do, a couple bigger states, but, we're trying to get our production up higher before we bite off that much.
Why did you go to South Dakota? What does it look like for you when you're prospecting for new states? Are you trying to identify maybe like businesses that would accept them in the state, or what is the first thing you're looking for?
Well, we do want to have a business network in each of these states. And that's something that you can do if you're a business owner. You can go to goldback.com. And even if we're not in your state, you can sign up your business to accept Goldbacks. And if you do that, then it makes it easier for us to go to your state later. We've got a few dozen businesses that have already signed up in Texas, for example. Okay, that's a good start. We probably need a few hundred, but the fact that people are organically doing this makes it far easier for us to go into these other states at a later date. We also have people that decide to get involved by becoming authorized partners. They run around and they help us sign businesses up in these states. So we're looking for authorized partners in Texas, and Idaho, and South Dakota, to help us really kind of get these business networks going. So it looks like that. And then the other thing that's really helpful for us is if we can get a state sponsor. Now, the state sponsor doesn't cover the whole thing, but really what a sponsor does is they come in with their own pile of Goldbacks that they buy from us, and then they lend them to us to use as cycling inventory. And we'll pay them a return for leasing us the Goldbacks. So there's people that own upwards of $1 million worth of Goldbacks. They're getting a 3.5% return on their Goldbacks by leasing them back to us. And then they have all the appreciation in gold that they get to keep because it's a lease. And that's how we're going into a lot of these new states. So South Dakota, if you look at the list, I think they're the second most friendly state for precious metals in the country. So they have that going for them. But they also had a sponsor that wanted to see the South Dakota Goldback Series happen. So we did the artwork, and like I said, now it's coming out later this year. We don't have a release date yet, but we believe it's going to be probably sometime the last quarter of the year.
I'm wondering if you've seen an uptick in interest over the last couple of years with the recent talk about inflation. Obviously, Silicon Valley Bank going under. I remember, I think it was like 2019, I probably read And the Fed, and I was talking about inflation all the time to my family. Started to sound like the boy who cried wolf, and seemed very crazy to my family members. And now inflation is in the news almost every day. So I'm wondering if you've seen an uptick in interest and sales.
You know what? If you go to the end of 2022, we sold between 2019 and 2022 about $50 million worth of Goldbacks, which is a lot. To give you context, I think the second most successful local currency in American history sold $7 million worth. So 50 million is huge in the local currency kind of world. Now, for 2023, we're almost halfway through this year. We're on track right now at the halfway point to have sold over $20 million worth of Goldbacks. I think that we could sell possibly between $40 and $50 million worth of Goldbacks by the end of 2023. So we might double the amount of all the Goldbacks previously sold in 1 year. And in 2024, if we can get the production, I think we'll do it again. I think we could sell $100 million worth of Goldbacks next year, which would be double all the Goldbacks ever sold, between 2019 and 2023. So we're really seeing that type of growth. There's a few people that they get really hung up on Goldback premiums. You're paying double spot for these guys. And there's a lot of people in the precious metal space that have been taught for 50 years that any kind of premium that you pay is just money down the drain. And they won't buy Goldbacks because there's a premium on them. So what they do instead is they use cash. And I don't know if you're familiar with this product or not. It's this guy right here. What's the premium on it? What's the melt value? Zero, right?
Zero, yeah.
Yeah, zero. If you burn this up, there's nothing. There's no gold in it. It's zero. So this is what people will use instead of Goldbacks that are upset by premiums on Goldbacks. The reason why people use these is because they have utility value, right? You're willing to take a $100 bill because somebody else will give you $100 worth of value for it for now. And the utility of having a money that works is huge. It's a multi-trillion-dollar market. Oh, did I lose you?
Yeah, my mic was just unplugged. Can you hear me?
Oh, I can hear you. Okay.
Okay, great.
Well, the utility value of the $100 bill, it's huge. Like I said, this is a multi-trillion-dollar market because having a money that other people accept is a big deal. Now, what's going to happen if confidence in the US dollar continues to decline? All that demand has to go somewhere. And what we've seen so far is there's evidence that as people look for other money alternatives, again, things that work as money, the demand goes up, right? So you kind of have two halves of the value of a Goldback. You've kind of got the melt value half and the utility half. The utility half, that's like this, has more appreciation potential, I think, than the melt value half. And that's what people aren't understanding. And you know what? Frankly, it's great they don't understand. If people understood this, Goldbacks would cost a lot more money. And again, I would rather just produce enough to meet market demand at low prices. And I'm happy to do that. I'm happy to grow at kind of this organic pace that we're going at. It's really nice. It really works well for us. But that's some of the pushback that we see on Goldbacks. People get upset that I'm not splitting an ounce of gold into 1,000 pieces for melt value. Like, well, if I'm going to take an ounce of gold and split it into 1,000 serialized non-counterfeitable units, that costs money. It's like, do you buy your car for melt? I mean, as soon as you add value to something, as soon as you add labor and craftsmanship into something, it adds value. And, we add quite a bit here to these Goldbacks. And we're proud of being able to do it for as cheap as we do.
I am wondering a little more about the appreciation potential. You've spoken about it before, and how you think that it's possible that it might appreciate more than other gold coins or silver.
Sure.
But I'm also wondering just about the international market. If you're seeing interest internationally, especially as more and more people are questioning the dollar. And obviously, as we're seeing U.S. foreign policy be pursued in Ukraine, I'm wondering if you're seeing an uptick internationally as well.
Absolutely. I can track my web traffic by IP address. I've had 1,000 hits this year from Pakistan on the goldback.com webpage. I mean, I don't think there's a single country that has an IP address associated with it where I don't have Google searches for Goldback or direct hits on the goldback.com website. There's a lot of interest internationally. And I know that, Goldbacks have already been sold on 6 different continents. I don't know if we sold any in Antarctica, but if I get evidence for that, I'm going to say that we sold on all 7 continents. Now, as far as your earlier point on how I said that half the value is in kind of the gold melt value and the other half is in this utility value, we've already seen that, and I brought this up, once or twice in other podcasts, but, when COVID hit, it was 2020. Do you remember March of 2020, how people were shopping at Costco and there's kind of this fear in the air? It was a really different experience. Like, people that normally didn't think about inflation, normally didn't think about the dollar, normally didn't think, they didn't really challenge the narrative, so to speak. Regular people were really scared, and I think that part of that fear was, hey, we're using these today to get our groceries. If everybody needs groceries and doesn't need these, if we all need to cash in our tokens and get commodities today, are there enough commodities to go around? And when the toilet paper shortage hit, that became a really real fear. The dollar bill is worth money when you think you can get value for it. If you don't think you can get value for it, people get scared. And part of that utility demand for money that works fragments off and goes somewhere else. You can see it in the crypto space. You could see it, all over, where things went up in price because dollars were looking for a safer place to go. Now, during that 2 weeks in 2020, kind of at the peak of the fear, we saw Goldbacks. They sold out everywhere. They sold out in every single location that sold them. We sold out of Goldbacks because the demand was so heavy. The only Goldbacks that you could buy online were on eBay. What do you think they sold for? What do you think people were actually paying for Goldbacks? Care to guess?
I think I would be wrong. I mean, I've looked on eBay before, and I've seen them. If they're selling by themselves, currently they're around $6-7. I've seen them around there. But if they're in packs, they could range from 300 to 700. But during March 2020, I don't know,
$50 a piece. Yeah, we were retailing them for closer to $2, $2.25, $2.50, something like that. These were selling for $50 a piece. And I think that what it was is people were so scared they weren't going to have a money that worked that they'd be willing to dump all of these to get something that kept its value no matter what. It's like the end of the game of musical chairs, except there's one chair and there's like 100 people that don't realize they're playing musical chairs. And it's like you have one really nice life raft on the Titanic, and all the other life rafts have, because, don't get me wrong, I'm a fan of precious metals and gold coins. I would hate to be in a scenario where I actually had to spend my gold coin as money, knowing that the market's flooded with counterfeits and I got to find a $2,000 purchase for it to make sense. That doesn't make any sense. People don't think that far ahead. The people that are starting to think that far ahead are buying Goldbacks, and that's why we sold $6 million worth of Goldbacks last month. It's really, really starting to pick up.
All right. Well, we're going to have to let you go soon, but I am wondering, this is a little out there, but I'm wondering if you think central banks might eventually find an interest in Goldbacks.
I certainly hope so. I've got all the marbles betting that the central banks, their main product is going to fail at some point just because it's made out of garbage, or it's made out of faith and confidence that is being abused by, governments. They own most of the gold, It would probably be very convenient for them if the solution, a technology like this came out, because I think central banks know that people aren't going to circulate coins. Central banks know that people aren't going to trust a gold standard where, don't worry, we have the gold for real. That they broke that trust already. I think this is the future of currency. I think it's the future of currency all over the world. And they might not be called Goldbacks, but we're certainly piloting it, and we'll see what happens over the next 20 to 30 years. It's either that or we're going to live in a dystopia with central bank digital currencies, and we'll see how that goes. If we can fight our way out of that in the next 100 or 200 years, it'll be this. So, it'll be a Goldback age or a dark age.
Well, hopefully we can get the word out there. Where can people find Goldbacks? Where can people find your stuff? And how can people get involved?
We have a Get Involved page on goldback.com. You can sign up your business there. You can help sign up businesses in states that we're interested in. We have a Discord that we're going to come live with in, like a week or so. You can sign up for email updates on goldback.com. A lot of people, they like to get Goldback wallets. I like to give them out as tips and gifts and try to spend them and introduce them to people as I go. I've probably introduced 200 or 300 people, just me, myself, spending things out of my wallet. I've introduced several hundred people to Sound Money just over the last couple of years. So it's a very powerful way for a small, dedicated group of people to spread the word. And again, I see the Goldback as a grassroots activist cause. It's a grassroots tool. It's something that you can do to advance sound money, at an individual level, but knowing that thousands of other people are doing the same thing. And we're all in the same team. We're all trying to find, alternatives to this kind of dystopian hellscape that, some people want to foist on us. So.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
No, thank you for having me.
All right. Well, there you have it. I'd like to thank Jeremy for joining me. And as always, thanks to Dave versus Goliath for all the music you hear on Decentralized Revolution, and to our producer, Simon Kalpin. And thanks to you all who are subscribed to our email list and support the pack. You can do both of those things at takehumanaction.com. And please remember to like, comment, and share the podcast. And thanks for watching. And